everyone, I'm Lauren and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my May reading wrap up. I can't believe we've gone through May already and I have not done too well, so I didn't have a really huge TBR. I'd got 2 books that I wanted to get through and I've read 4, so I suppose I've surpassed that. 2 of them are the ones that I wanted and 2 are just on my shelves. I'm trying to go through my TBR pile and streamline my shelves, to be honest. So I'm reading the books that I've had for years. The idea is that the ones that I enjoy and could see myself reading again go back on the shelf. The others are getting donated. I might have to wait a while for libraries and charity shops to open, but that is the plan. I don't like the idea of throwing books away. I may potentially let my mum have some, although she has hundreds of books, so I might see if she wants to read any of them before I get rid of them. But yeah, that's the current plan anyway. So the first book that I read in May was My Bookie Book by Russell Brand. I didn't really know what this book was. I knew it was an autobiography by Russell Brand, but I'd not really had any other information or insight into it. I wasn't sure when this was written. I think it's 2007. So this was written in 2007, or at least that was when it was published. And it details Russell's young life until, I'm going to say, his late 20s, maybe early 30s. I can't remember how old he is or when he was born. But it goes through all of his addictions, rehab, and how he became the person that he is and how he became known for what he's known for. So the crazy hairstyling on the cover of this book is definitely the images that I remember of him. Just constant sort of like updoed mess, which I always thought had been tailored that way, but after reading this I'm pretty sure it is just because he was in that much of a state that he didn't actually know what he looked like, and I thought it was more purposefully done, the style, rather than he's literally just a walking mess. So this autobiography starts with Russell being admitted into a sex rehab clinic in America, which is also where the story ends, so we get a full circle of that time period. So it's up until the point the book is written that we get that view. He details all the issues he had during his childhood, how his mum had cancer multiple times, and the fractured relationship he had with both his dad and his stepdad. It seems like he fell into drugs and alcoholism and sex. I feel like it's an addictive personality more than anything, that he did something and then he did it to death, pretty much, and that became the focal point of his entire personality. Who was he if he wasn't Russell, the guy getting all the drugs, drinking all the booze and sleeping with all the ladies? When I look back at the period that he's written about in here, I do remember him being on the TV, maybe not quite as much as some people, because I was only about 11 I think when he became sort of full limelightness, got thrust fully into the limelight, I should say. What I did really like about this, I'm going to see if I can find any, are the pictures that he added in. I love that about autobiographies. I love the pictures that get thrown into the middle of the book, because I'm kind of nosy, so I like to see the people who they're speaking about, so I've got just that little bit of a clearer view, especially because these are real people rather than just characters that someone's made up. I think it shows how important it is to not let people fall through the cracks. Yeah, it does come across as not the most pleasant person through the majority of this book. I think he's probably grasped that himself. It doesn't seem to write about it in a prideful way. He's just stating the facts of what his life was like and what he had to deal with growing up and how he coped with that. I think the openness in this book, like, he doesn't shy away from anything. He goes into the bare detail, it goes into what most people would probably be ashamed to admit. He doesn't care. He's laid himself fully bare within this book, and I really liked that sort of candid honesty. I think I gave this book a 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. I did really enjoy it, and I do really want to read his second book now. I think it is, if you do enjoy autobiographies and if you like Russell Brand and the stuff that he's putting out there, then it's definitely worth a read, just to get that bit of an extra understanding of him. I mean, also, look, I've got a floppy one. Everyone seems to go off about floppy paperbacks, but I didn't know that was a thing. I would really, really recommend this book to anyone who is interested in autobiographies and in Russell Brand in particular. I do think it does go into quite a lot of detail, and I think it gives a bit more of an understanding as to the person that maybe people my age know him as. The next book that I read in May I was really excited for, and it was The Heartstone Odyssey by Arvind Kumar. So this is the first in a trilogy. There's going to be a full review upon this book on my channel soon because I do think it's quite important. I will put up a warning now. Some of the words in this book, although it was aimed at children, I read this when I was 10 originally, are probably words that are not acceptable. So it deals with racism within the UK in the 80s, I think, because that's when it was written, so I'm going to go 80s. It deals with racism and it does use racist language. It is explained to have been used in a negative way and that these words are not acceptable. However, if you feel like these words are something you wouldn't want to read or come across, then maybe this book is not the best thing. It goes on about the racism towards the Indian sects of the society as well as black sects of the society as well. The entire idea behind this is that there is a heart stone that was broken in India during the colonialisation from the British troops and Britain. Yay for empires. As the heart stone was broken, part of it was taken to England to keep it safe and the rest was kept in India. The keepers of the stone are mice, and it turns out that animals in this world, I say world, in this version of reality, can speak. You just have to be able to pay attention to them. Mice record everything, but only stuff that they think's important, so you might not get history as you'd expect. It'd be like, oh, the sun was really beautifully warm this day, I think, is an example. But yeah, there's going to be a full review of this on my channel in a few weeks, I think. And I gave this 5 stars out of 5. Although it does deal with racism and it does have words that are unsavoury to both use and read, it lived up to my expectations of nostalgia, and I also do think that it is although it doesn't go into it in as much detail, the fact that it's portraying an Indian culture in a positive light is always a good thing. I know that a lot of people, the best way to sort of combat racism and racist ideas is to fight against the prejudices, so I think this is a good start. It is aimed at children. The writing style is quite simplistic. You can't get these in print anymore. This is an ex-library book that I picked up on Amazon, so if you do want to read it you may have to struggle to find it. I think this cost me £3, so they're not too expensive to buy if you do end up finding a copy, but I would really recommend it because it just gives a bit more of an understanding to just the world, and the story in it is so beautiful. So the telling of moving the Heartstone and what that is, and the oh, what's the word? Sort of like, there's just like myths in it as well that I just really love, and the stories within the story are just so beautiful, so I would really, really recommend this. The third book that I read this month, I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it or not, and that was K-Pax by Jean Breaux. I picked this up at university, probably from a charity shop. I probably enjoyed the cover of it, I'm not going to lie. Also the blurb is kind of interesting. So the premise is there's a guy called Breaux, spelled P-R-O-T, and he says that he is from the planet K-Pax and he is admitted into a mental institute in America, the Manhattan Psychiatric Institute. The entire story is told in transcribed recordings of the therapy sessions that Breaux has with Dr. Jean Breaux, which threw me because obviously that's the name of the author. So for a good 40 pages or so I was and ahhing between whether this was actually a real story or if it was fiction. I didn't know where it was going, I didn't know what was actually happening with it. I think it is fiction. Definitely think it has gone to fiction, but it completely threw me because the psychiatrist's wife in this is called Karen, and Jean's wife is actually called Karen. I literally looked it up because it was really confusing me and I had no idea what to expect from it. So these recordings go through how Jean's trying to understand who Breaux is, where he came from, what his understanding is. He's able to draw detailed maps of the sky as if he was on K-Pax. He's able to give detailed information about the Milky Way and solar system and all that information, but obviously they don't believe that he's an alien because why is he on Earth? So because of that, everything's held with a hint of skepticism. I do really like this. It's a really quick read. There's only 230 pages. I think in total it took me 4 hours to read. It was a really quick read, and because of that I flew through it and I really enjoyed it. This was actually a 5-star read for me. I gave this 5 stars because I was just so blown away by the concept of it, the speed of it, the difference of it. I've never read a book that quite dealt with the mental institute, but focusing on, I think it was the style, the fact that it was, so the chapters were session 1, session 2, so forth, and it was an urgency. There was sort of like a murder mystery vibe to it, just because they were trying to figure out who this guy actually is, and the uncovering of that, and what might have happened, and trying to understand what was his actual mental illness. Was he a savant? Had he got extreme amnesia? I don't want to go into it too much because I don't want to spoil it, but I did actually really enjoy this book. Although I did really enjoy it, the suspense from this book was not knowing what was going on, so I don't think I'm going to be reading it again. So I think this will be one of the books that I will be unhauling, which is a shame because I did really like it, but I don't think I'll ever read it again. I will be suggesting it to my mum to read, so she might read it before it gets donated. But yeah, this one, I loved it so much, but now once you've read it once, you've kind of, the story's done. It doesn't, there's not a lot of plot to it to draw you in apart from who is this guy. So the final book that I'm going to mention in this, I actually finished at the start of June, but I mainly read it in May, and because of that loophole I am going to include it in my May wrap up. And that book was One Day by David Nicholls. I'm gonna come straight off the bat here. This was a 2-star read for me. I do not understand the hype around it. I went through my Goodreads, and literally everyone I'm friends with on Goodreads gave this either a 4 or a 5-star review, and I am really struggling to understand why. So many thoughts. So this book follows Dexter Mayhew and Emma Morley throughout their lives, but only showing one day each year. The day that it focuses on is St. Swithin's Day, which is July 15th. It starts in 1988 and goes all the way up to 2008. Well, it might be 1987. It says 20 years. But I'm pretty sure it's 88 to 2007. And it shows how life changes with just that one snippet of a day. I'll be honest, I did enjoy this to start off with, and I was getting really into it, and although Emma's character is a little bit piney and a bit annoying, I could get over it. Dexter reminded me of Russell Brand. I don't know if that's because I read my bookie book so close to reading this, but the way that this character is portrayed and the way he goes off the rails, spoiler alert, is very much how Russell Brand described sort of his adolescence and early years in television. So I had weird sort of Russell Brand vibes whilst reading it. I'm not sure if that was the thing that the author was going for. And although it was a constant sort of will they, won't they, I almost threw this book across the room when I ended part 4. I don't know how many people haven't read this, and I still don't want to spoil it because I don't know why, because I honestly would not recommend this book to anyone if you've got any sort of heart or emotion. But I almost threw the book across the room, especially as there was 50 pages left, and I don't even think it's what happened at the end of part 4. I think it was the callousness of the last sentence of the part 4. I caught it by accident as I turned the page, which kind of ruined an entire page of the story for me. And yet I wanted to throw it across the room. I don't really want to be holding it. Part 5 was not much better. I feel like I was emotionally invested in a book that failed as a book. I didn't put it on my Goodreads review, but someone else wrote it, and I think that they're pretty much right. It reminded me how I felt when I read The End of Atonement. Like I'd spent this entire time being invested in these characters, been invested in this life, been invested in their potential will they won't they relationship. I want to throw it across the room. So I gave it 2 stars. I didn't give it 1 because I did actually enjoy the majority of the book. Like I said, the last 50 pages You could have stopped it. So I gave it 2 stars because I did, although I found Emma and Dexter a little bit annoying at times, they came across as real people. And that is a plus. But I think that the ending was done as a shock rather than as anything else. I don't think it was needed. I feel like it was a way to completely... I don't even know. There was nothing in this book to suggest that that's how it would end. So I felt like I'd been betrayed by the reading experience of it, to be honest. And I don't think I'll ever read anything of his again. And I will be swiftly donating this to a charity or to a library as soon as I can, because from what I can see on Goodreads, this is a really popular book. So someone's going to enjoy it. But that someone is not me, and I'm really confused as to why anyone gave it such great glowing reviews. So if any of you have read this and you really enjoyed it, I would love to know your thoughts. Why? Maybe I'm just not the sort of person who can deal with that sort of... I don't even know the words. I was so invested in it that what happened just has angered me so much. It's only been a few days. Still angry, still so angry. So I only managed to get through 4 books in May, which isn't a lot, but I am trying to focus on my writing, although I'm not doing as well as that as I should be doing. I am going to be focusing on a lot of anti-racist books throughout June. So a couple of years ago, Todd bought A Carla's Natives, and I have not read it yet, so that is a book I'm picking up. I have bought 2 audiobooks, Why I'm Not Talking to White People About Racism, I think it's called, and White Fragility. I can't remember the rest of that. So I've got those on audiobook, and I bought How Not to Be a Racist on Kindle. So I've never really listened to an audiobook before, so I'm a little bit nervous because I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my attention on it, because I know that I just drift off, and reading's a lot easier for me because I can focus on the words and I get more pulled into it. I mean, I drift off when I'm watching YouTube, I drift off when I'm watching TV, so I'm hoping that really works. I've still got loads of books on my shelves that I want to read as well, so I'm going to be slowly going through that. I also want to read my self-publishing book that I got, because I want to start doing some, well, self-editing, because I want to start doing some self-editing next month. I'm working through that. I have got a lot of books to read in June, and I don't know if I'm going to do it. So far I've done 3 books and 4 books. My goal on Goodreads is to get to 50, and I am currently 10 behind schedule, so I've got so many books to read to catch up. But I am being optimistic about it. So that's a mini sort of TBR for you as well. As a little extra. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a like so that I know you want to see more wrap-ups from me, and don't forget to subscribe to see more videos from me, as there's a new video on this channel every Sunday at 4 o'clock. There is also my monthly vlogs that are coming through. The first one should already be live. I have tried to come up with a cool name for it because I didn't want to just call it May monthly vlog, June monthly vlog. So I have gone for Lunial. I've gone for a sort of moon celestial naming because that's the sort of person I am, and I couldn't find any synonyms for monthly that I liked. So I shall see you all soon, and I hope you're all well. Bye!